Banks are a tool used for governments and the general populace to have a way to facilitate in commerce. Banks are the most trusted place to keep your money. A strong bank is the pillar of your community. The trouble with that is almost none of those things are true. And here's why. Permit me to control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws. End quote. Meyer Rothschild. I'm not going to go into all of the ins and outs of the Rothschilds' house of banking, but it's a fascinating and dark history. You should look into that sometime if you have a minute. What we're seeing now with banks is some sketchy behavior. And we really always have. If you follow any society long enough, going clear back to the Athenians in Greece, where they clipped their coins. And by that I mean they had things to finance, primarily wars. They took the existing currency, which was gold, and they melted it down and they added copper to it. So if you had 20 gold coins and you melt that down and you add copper, now you can have 40 golden coins. Twice as much. I mean, it's foolproof until it isn't. Bad money drives good out of circulation. People will naturally hold on to the valuable thing and use the less valuable thing, right? I mean, that's just uncommon sense. Lenin, Hitler, Mussolini, one of the first things that all of these tyrants did was outlaw private ownership of gold. Why? Maybe you should look into that. Modern banking is a kind of a diluted version or an expanded version, depending on how you look at it, of something that's been around since about 2,000 years before Christ. Initially, it started with grain barns, bank barns, they called them. There would be surpluses. Anything can be currency. And back then, it was grain. There would be a surplus. You couldn't store all of it. You couldn't keep it safe. So they built warehouses, banks, bank barns to hold this surplus and store it and keep it safe. And you were written a receipt. So maybe you took 5 bushels of grain, of wheat, to your local bank barn to keep it safe. And they would write you a receipt and issue that to you with your name on it, perhaps the date and time. I don't know how it went, but you had a paper receipt. This is where our first circulating money came from. The receipts traded as a currency. So if you loan me $5 and then 5 months later, I haven't paid you back, but I've harvested my grains, and you see me on the street, and hey dude, you got that 5 bushels of grain I loaned you? I don't. I don't carry it with me. What I did do, though, was plant the field. I harvested it. I've got some stored up at the local bank barn, and I've got this paper receipt. I'm going to sign my name to the back of it. You take this receipt down to the bank barn, and you'll get your seat back. And all's well that ends well. The receipts started trading as currency with an endorsement on the back. And that worked good and fine until the people at the bank barn started getting a little sketchy. And they started to say, well, we can do all kinds of things. Nobody knows really how much is in here. I mean, we started out with these ledgers and books to keep it all straight, but we can loan out, maybe more than we have even. And when people came, maybe word got out, maybe it leaked out, and people came to get their grain out. And between two suns, the folks that ran the show at the bank barn took off. And now, they break their way into the storehouse and there's nothing in the vaults. There's nothing there. Funny how things come around full circle and repeat themselves. You can learn a great deal about the history of a nation through its money. And why is it that people in America just think that is the distant past? It can't happen here. Well, not only it can, but it will, and it has. I have some receipts here. Here's an older one. You can see right at the top it says silver certificate. Now, the wording on the bottom says $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. Well, this is a receipt. I could take it to my local bank, and I got $1 worth of silver. It's a receipt. What happened to that? Here's a $2. Oh, I should point out too, with the blue seal. Here's a $2 note. It has a red seal, and at the top it says United States note. Now, why would it say that? This here, in part, is what got John Kennedy killed. 1s, 2s, and 5s were produced. You should look into that when you get a chance. And a great book on the topic is called Kill Zone by Lieutenant Colonel Craig Roberts, which talks not only about these and about Vietnam and about what was going on with the Federal Reserve and what happened to Mr. Kennedy. Here is a Federal Reserve note. Note. What else has a note? A car note? A house note? A note is debt. A present-day deposit in America is basically an unsecured loan to the bank. You are a creditor. You don't own your money anymore. The bank owns it. It's a loan to them, and they can use it however they wish. Until somewhat recently, we had fractional reserve lending, where they had a portion of their books on reserve. And this got so disastrous so quickly. At one time, it was 29-1. They could loan out $1 in deposits 29 other times. Present day, there's no requirement for reserves at all. Zero. It's just a spending frenzy. Let's think about this in an analogy. I come to your house for poker night. The buy-in is $10. I give you $10, you put it in the closet, and you give me $10 worth of chips to play the game. I play for a couple hours, it's getting late. I look at my money. I haven't gained or lost anything. I've got $10 worth of chips. And I say, hey, Bob, it's getting late. I want to cash out. I want to go home. Here's my $10 worth of chips. I'd like my $10 back, please. See y'all later. And all of a sudden, Bob starts getting sketchy and says, well, you can't quit now. It's early. The night is young. What do you mean you got to go? I want my $10. I'm out, man. I'll be back next week. Well, you can't. You can't have that $10. We loaned it out so other people could play. What do you mean you loaned it out? That was my buy-in that was mine. It's mine, except it's not. Once it's in Bob's closet, Bob can do what he wants with it. You're beginning to see through the veiled curtain now in America. The FDIC, the American version of insurance for your money in the bank, is currently set at $250,000. Well, let's back up a minute. Why do we have the FDIC? Well, because in the 1930s, banks were insolvent. They didn't have any money. So when everybody came at once to get their money out of the banks, they didn't have it. It was gone. They just shut the doors on people and locked them out. FDR, then President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, yeesh, don't get me started. Well, he came up with this great plan of a banking holiday where we just shut down all the banks. I believe a week they were shut down while they retooled. Well, they had all this in the works and they rolled it out. Well, he did a fireside chat, what he used to call his addresses to the public over radio. That was the only medium we had then other than newspapers. And he told people, your money is safe and sound. You can trust the banks. Well, then why did they close for a week? Why did we have to have this banking holiday? Where is our money? A full, I believe it was 1/3 of the banking institutions in America just never came back. They were gone. And with it were people's money gone. You had no. So the government, well, there was public outrage. What about our money? That's our life savings in there. Yeah, it's not anymore. It's gone. So the government and the banking institutions came up with the FDIC, Federally Deposit Insurance Corporation, I believe, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, something to that effect. And it covered up to $100,000. It was insurance. Now, if your bank got sketchy and went out of business, and the same thing that had previously happened, and it happened multiple other times. It happened in the late 1800s. It happened in the early 1900s. And of course, the worst of it was the bankruptcy of the United States in 1933. Well, if that were to happen again, your money is safe up to $100,000. And then 2008, the financial crisis happened in 2008. And it turns out $100,000 wasn't enough. So they increased the limit to $250,000. Now you're covered up. Now, mind you, that's not per banking institution, and that's not per account. That's total. It's $250,000. Well, currently, the FDIC has approximately $192 billion to cover claims, but they have $9 trillion in deposits. Who do you think is going to get bailed out first? And I shouldn't use the term bailed out. Who do you think is going to get insured first and covered? You, Joe Schmo, with your $26,000 in there, your $104,000, or your $218. You think you're going to be at the top of that list? We're also seeing these off-book deals. Nobody even knows, but the International Monetary Fund came out and told us that there's anywhere from 50 to 80, 50 to 80 trillion. I mean, the number doesn't even matter. What do you mean? You're a financial institution and these are off the books. Where was this money going? Doesn't matter. We don't even know how much is out there. It doesn't. That's fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry. You got the FDIC. It's fine. Everything's going to be fine until it's not. In recent events here, Argentina, Hungary, and Cyprus, just to name a few, they've had little banking holidays where you couldn't get your money. The bank's closed. In Cyprus, the banks have been closed for 9 days. There's no message. They're just closed. I saw a video of a lady, she put her ATM card into the ATM expecting to get a few dollars for the day, and it not only didn't give her her money, it didn't give her a card back. And it'll be fine. It's just hang on. I'm sure it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Why do we think in this country that can't happen? Like I said, it has happened multiple times. It will happen. It'll be more dangerous this time because people are so dependent on that. They have their cards, they have their digital transfers. I'm just going to make my payments all on the phone. I'm going to do auto draft and auto pay and auto this and all. And it's great until it isn't, until it doesn't work. There's a store here locally, and internet service in the town I live in can be spotty. And this same store, a little dollar store, I don't go there often, but when I do, almost without fail, I'm waiting in line to pay for my stuff and somebody's using the card thing. It just doesn't work. Or it's so slow, so painfully slow. It's like, and I've literally done this. You're less than like $10. How about this? How about I just pay for your stuff so I can get on with my life? I don't have time for your nonsense. Why don't you? It's $7. You don't have $7 in cash? No, I do it through my card. Everything's through my card. Well, that's what helped get us here. You're going to see major problems in just short order with the banking system, not only in America, but around the world. It's already starting. The birth pangs, I've heard that term throughout, and it's a very apt description. This is the beginning. They already have central bank digital currency, and that'll be the end of your privacy and shortly after the end of your freedom. It's already in the works. They're rolling out pilot programs. The infrastructure is coming in June of 2023. A great book on the subject is The Creature from Jekyll Island. Griffith, I think, is the author of that. Man, anything can be currency, and has been historically. There was a thing, I think, during World War I, tulip bulbs were a currency. Chocolate bars were a currency. In modern day prisons, cigarettes and weed are currency. You can accomplish a lot if you have a supply of it. Anything can be traded. It's an equal store of value. In years past, if you had a silver dime and you bought a quart of milk, the milk bought the dime and the dime bought the milk. It was an equal exchange. Now we have debt. I can't tell you what to do, and I don't want to. If it was me, I'd be looking at getting my money out of the banks. Sooner the better. And you're starting to notice in American banks, relatively small amounts, $1,000, $3,000, $5,000 withdrawals are starting to trigger raised eyebrows. What are you going to be doing with this? Hey, it's none of your business. It's mine. I tell my bank all the time, well, not all the time, but when I do one of these transactions, what are you going to be doing with this? I'm going to buy crack cocaine and hookers. What difference does it make to you? I'm not funding terrorism. I don't have any part of terrorism. It's none of your business. I want to say it was the author Ernest Hemingway, and that a reporter was asking him how it was that he came about to be financially destitute. He'd spent himself broke. I think it was Hemingway. But the quote was, at first it was little by little, then all at once. That's how I went broke. That's what we're going to see just very shortly in the banking thing. I would strongly recommend you get your money out of the banks. They're coming for it. The system is broken. And the fix is even worse. I thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your like and subscribe. However, it's at the bottom of the deal with the thing. And yeah. We'll see you next time.